I'm Matt Buell with MBuell Studio, and on behalf of the Woodworking Network, it is monthly topic time. Now, this topic is based on one simple assumption, and that is that you young wood pros have already kind of found a cool attachment or some level of romance with the materials that you use to work. The reason I say that is it is the most common theme in conversation I have when I run into young wood pros and old wood pros alike. It is the one thing that we all seem to agree on. There's the joy of doing this, whether it's professional or a hobbyist. There's that simple love of just wielding tools on a workpiece to create something that you've envisioned, and that process and to work with the materials, that hands-on experience. It is the most common thread. It's cliche for a reason because it's true about almost all of us. So under that assumption, I'm going to go ahead and just jump on materials. In the words of the great Will Sampson, this month we're going to keep it just down to the nitty-gritty. Let's talk about materials and where you get them. So it's clear that our relationship with our materials is a genuinely intimate part of our job. It's the bones of what we do. And so in my years of experience, I want to offer you a couple of suggestions. They're suggestions, take them if you want, on how to approach this with the gift of hindsight, because I'm getting old and I've been doing this a long time, on ways I would have maybe done this differently in the beginning. My first suggestion is you need to hop on your laptop or your computer or whatever internet device you got, open your browser and do some research. Sit down and do some study of the materials you're going to work with. Learn about their properties. Learn more about everything they can do and can't do. Their limitations are also wise to learn. This is important because it's going to help you whittle down what best is going to fit your process and what best is going to really, embolden what it is you're building. I'll give you a couple examples that I recommend you look at. When you're looking at materials, obviously we're going to talk about wood and other substrates, or that's a fair topic or a fair way to imply materials, right? So we got some different woods here. So you need to research what woods you're going to use, okay? Now that's just in the first suggestion. We'll get more to that in a minute. But also you're going to be researching different types of glues. I highly recommend that because they all are good for different things. They all also, especially you get into this group of guys and the other number two and the other ones, I don't know, there's a billion of them at this point. They all have different temperatures in which they set up at. I have them memorized because my first shop wasn't very well climate controlled. I knew, I'm like, well, I can't use that one today, but that helped me. And if you don't have the right temperature, certain glues, they won't set up. And when you go to unclamp it, it's just going to fall right back apart. So you need to research glues. You need to look at what their open and set times are. They are different, all different. You can look into high glues, whatever you need to do to research adhesives that's going to help you do your job, maximize you doing your job, okay? So that's something I recommend. Other materials, sandpaper. And please go read about sandpaper. I know it's boring, it's daunting, I get it. But don't go into the box store and just buy what's available because it's available. Different types of sandpapers are good for different types of practices. Okay? Example. What we got here? This is my daily driver. We'll get to that in a little bit. But I stock 4 different kinds. Some I stock heavily because I use all the time. But like ceramics, these are the hot item. They're not good for everything. These are good when you're really loading it. If you're not doing heavy loading, this is not a good sandpaper, in my opinion. Take it for what you want. Also, some of these are not made for wood necessarily, but they'll give a less of a scratch pattern. So I get into the finished types of sanding, like over 150, 180. I actually prefer switching to these. But I didn't know this without research and a really great rep, which we'll get to shortly. You got to go do some reading. Finishes, spray finishes. There's a billion kinds out there. You've got to go and look at them and make a decision on which one you're going to go with or which ones. Also, I'll get to that in a moment. So as much as myself, I do not like to sit down and have to do a bunch of research and reading for hours or days on end. But it pays off in the long run. There are a few times where I should have done that, and I ended up costing myself a lot more time in the early years. A lot of growing pains. Save yourself some of those pains. Sit down, do some reading now. You'll also probably discover some things you didn't know about, some products you didn't know about, and it's like the sandpaper deal. Like most people don't think about that. They don't look into it. But I'll tell you right now, the massive difference. Massive difference. When I'm using a more typical hardwood, such as walnut, my daily one, perfectly fine. It does great. But once I start getting into more dense lumbers, even certain, like I was doing a lot of quarter sawn white oak last spring, and I switched to the ceramic because it required more load, cut my sanding time down significantly. And then you get into stuff like Brazilian cherry or Jatoba, super dense. Some of these other sanding papers, such as the ceramic on this case, are fantastic on it. But for what they cost on my regular stuff, complete overkill. And this kind of leans into my second suggestion. Keep it simple. After doing some research about the kind of materials you'll be using or want to use, I highly suggest you narrow it down and just pick a few that you're going to work with on a regular daily basis that you're offering your clients. So for me, sandpaper, this was my daily driver. It's very affordable. It's a really good sandpaper. I love this sandpaper. It covers 90% of my needs. So that was easy. With glue, I'm usually right here. I don't build anything that needs to be waterproof. In all honesty, if my clients are pouring water on their furniture, I mean, it's theirs, they do what they want, but I can't guarantee it. So I prefer this glue. I just prefer it. Easy to work with. Setup time is pretty quick, but doable. And it, most of the time washes out of my clothes, which is kind of nice. Some of them don't. I'm looking at you, Green Top. Keeping it simple. But the thing is, I know I stock this the most. I buy this by the gallon or even more. This guy, I keep 2 or 3 around. I'm not heavily invested in it. But when I need it, it's there. And that's the kind of the point here. You're making this easier for you to kind of get used to using a certain material, learning about the usage of it without overwhelming yourself. And it's the same with the glues and stuff. I mean, you don't need to stock every variation this company makes, plus high glues, plus all the epoxies, which I rarely use. You don't need to stock all that. It's overwhelming. It's too much to learn, and you don't need it. Simplify what you're going to do from the beginning. You can always expand as you grow. That's okay. I also recommend the same with lumber. I typically don't stock lumber necessarily. The clients pay for that. But in my offerings to clients, when it's just kind of in the beginning and more generalized, I offer about 4, maybe 5 North American domestic hardwoods: walnut, white oak, maple, cherry, poplar. Am I capable of offering others? You bet. And if those don't work for them, then I'm always open to showing them some other ideas. But these are the ones that I really focused on about 15 years ago, is really getting used to working with, because they all work very differently. Personally, the Audrey Hepburn of lumbers right here, walnut, is a pleasure to work with. It behaves better. It's wonderful. White oak is awesome too. It's a great lumber. Chips out a little easier on you if you're not paying attention. Your blades aren't sharp, especially router bits. But it's a great lumber. Maple, fantastic. Maple is a great lumber. Soft maple. And cherry is also wonderful to work with. I really, really like cherry. It just so happens that most people either love it or hate it, so, in my experience. But what I'm saying is narrow it down, keep it simple, because you do not need to sit down and try and learn about all the different species of lumber that are possible. That's like a degree in its own. Don't. Stick with the main core that are most accessible to you. We'll get to that here in a minute when we talk about suppliers. This is what I've done. It doesn't mean I don't work with other lumbers. Are you kidding me? You know, got stuff like Jatoba. I've worked with zebra wood, Wenge, this is going to be a long list. Paduke, Brazilian rosewood, Indian rosewood, ebony, I mean, name it. I can't even remember all the woods I've worked with. But the beauty of it was I didn't have to learn about all of them at once. I stuck to my main core to really dig in and do my homework. And as needed, as I went along, it's a lot easier to kind of learn about the more expansive list of lumbers. And usually that's when a job would come in that required it. Okay, I can sit down and learn about Wenge for 30 minutes or an hour. That's a lot easier than sitting down and going through all the ones I just mentioned just because you want to be knowledgeable. Don't. Focus on simple. This grows close to where you live if you're in the United States or in Canada or Mexico. This is close enough. You can get it. We'll get to more of that. But also, this is also going to help you with your pricing because you already have a set idea of what this costs a box. You already have a set idea when you're ordering, your larger containers or even the small ones, what it costs. It's easy to memorize this stuff. It does change, especially these days, but it's still within a range. It allows me that over time, I can usually shoot a number off a lot quicker because I'm not having to go look it up. Like I know what I pay for this. I buy it all the time. Same with these guys, even though lumber does change on a weekly basis, they're always within a range. And then I get into finish. This can's pretty gross, huh? Same thing with finishes. I spray everything. A good friend of mine, talented woodworker, Corbin Clay, good guy. He told me years ago, he said, when are you going to graduate and play with the big boys and start spray shooting all your stuff? I remember hearing that being like, jerk. I'm kidding. He was right. I went home and I'm like, yeah, he's right. Why haven't I done that? And I started shooting everything. I have a finish room worth every dollar. And I took the same practice into doing that as I had with everything else. I found one company with a product I really liked, and I really focused on learning how to use that product. And I'm learning the techniques of spray finishing along the way. There's a lot of products out there. They don't deviate that much. But from this one, I have all my spray guns set. I know the two or three different majority of the products I use of theirs. I know where my settings are. It's memorized. It's automatic. It's just less day-to-day fatigue, man. So I pretty much only shoot this unless a client requests a special finish. But typically, if you're good with your product and you've put it to the test and you know you're good with it and it does what it's supposed to do, it doesn't mean I'm not open to new stuff. That's what trade shows are for. But this has helped me too because I also know what it costs a gallon or a 5 gallon. I know. I'm not having to research 100 things every time I price something. It's easier to get to. It's also less overwhelming. This has allowed me to learn more about maintaining the equipment in a certain way, doing mix downs, which I don't have to very often, knowing my viscosities. All that stuff is because I've kept it simple. Pricing, easier. And you're not overwhelming yourself. In this world of the craft we do, it's endless. It's endless. I can't even name all the species of lumber in the world. I can't even name all the companies that make sandpaper. Glue, little less. But I mean, there's a lot of other materials you're going to work with. This is the one everyone thinks of when it comes to mind. And it's the same thing with substrates, MDF, plywood, particle board, whatever your jam is. Try and keep it simple. At least to start. This is for you young wood pros. You don't need to stock one of everything. That's your cash flow sitting up against a wall, not making any money. Don't. Keep your cash flow. Buy some machines. The other big piece of the pie when it comes to materials, and most people don't ever really include in this conversation, is your suppliers. That's a big one. You can study a material and want to work with it really bad. If you can't find a way to get a supplier to get it to you within a reasonable distance or for a good, really nice shipping price, then you're forced to look elsewhere, right? So I'm a big proponent of researching what your suppliers or finding good suppliers. Usually I try and find one, two, maybe even 3. So that way if one person's out, I'm not just sitting there on my hands. And also having that price wiggle that can change gives me flexibility. It keeps everybody honest. It's a pretty good deal. So for me, these are native hardwoods. And I have the luxury, I do live in Northwest Arkansas. I'm surrounded by forests full of walnut, maple, white oak, some cherry, and poplar. and other species as well, but these would be the core ones. And so I'm surrounded by it, so my suppliers have it readily available. If I lived in the Southwest, some of these things would be harder to get to, where I'd have to make a couple pilgrimage trips every couple of times a year, or I'd have to pay the price to order it in. So what you need to do is you need to research what's available to you. That's also going to help you whittle down what is on your list for simplifying. It's also just great, and I encourage this, be mindful. Your suppliers are a logistics chain you need. So don't treat them poorly, because you need them. Unless you live in a place where you have 15 different ones around you can pick from whenever, if you burn a bridge, you're really cutting a limb off your business. Treat your suppliers right. Over time, totally worth it. Heck, I love my suppliers. I want to give you a shout out, but I know I don't want to cross into the lines of shilling. Anyway, so that's a good one with suppliers. Also, I know suppliers carry glue, or you can contact the companies you want to work with yourself. Talk to them. I'm sure they have a rep. Sandpaper wise, that's I love about this sandpaper company. I have a rep. She's awesome. She comes to my shop. She explains to me what they have, new offerings. She gives me samples of stuff to try. This allows me to let her be the expert, and me can just worry about making furniture more. That's a big benefit to certain suppliers, having reps. Someone that it's a personal phone call. You need something ordered, you're in a pinch, or something's not working. It's a quick phone call. I'm not sitting there trying to email somebody I've never seen in who knows where. Like, that relationship really matters. And someone who's a professional that shows up with a good product, that enhances my business. So I recommend that. Same thing with finish. Go with what's close to you, or go with what you can get to you easily. The guys I use here, Target Coatings, they're on the East Coast, but with FedEx Ground, it's here in a couple days. And usually when I start a work piece, I don't need the finish in 2 or 3 days. So I need a little more time than that. So usually I'll order it when I start everything else and it's on its way. But you got to look at your suppliers, A, like extensions of your business, but also like people you need to treat with respect. And C, that they also do define what the materials are that you realistically can work with. And in this line of work, your materials are everything. Hardware suppliers are another huge one. Huge one. I challenge, though, always be open-minded. New things do come to market. But I don't sit around researching new products all the time. I don't have time. That's why I go to the trade shows. Because usually if I'm there and it gets my attention, it's in my face, I'll take a look at it. I check my emails too. I get some emails, especially from hardware. But without these materials, we have nothing to work on. I don't care how good you are. If you got nothing to actually build with, you're not building anything. And if you don't understand the properties of what you're building with, good luck on it looking beautiful forever, or even for very long. Each of these different lumbers have different properties about it when working with it. And I know I have to make adjustments differently between white oak and walnut. Things I had to learn the hard way. All right. Little things, I know. I show up and I make the beautiful part of our work so complicated. But I want you to take these, sit down with them, and then simplify. Go get them. See you next month.